Here and welcome to my solo rank tier list. First of all, I have to mention this tier list is obviously going to be subjective based on my experience as a Grandmaster player. I think I'm like 180 LP now, so pretty close to Challenger. And anyways, let's start with the S tier list. So this tier list is not in a particular order. It's just supports, mid, jungle, solo lane. Oh wait, support, mid, ADC, jungle, solo lane, and no rating in between. So doesn't mean that Lulu, for example, is the best in the S tier list. And also for champions, it really depends on the proficiency you have on that champion. If you are really good, for example, on Yasuo, might as well be S tier. Or for Evelyn, as an example, if you are really good at Evelyn in the jungle, could be A tier or S tier. It really depends on how proficient you are with the champion. But this is just based on my average experience that I see in ranked matches. So first of all, Lulu, one of the best supports right now, a new yordle, freshly released. She has silence, attack speed, bonus, movement speed buff, and also the ultimate, which is really great in combination with Shivana, Olaf, or maybe to boost your Jinx up. So in the laning phase, she is devastating. Her poke in combination with Misfortune, for example, super hard to deal with in the laning phase. So she is also great to deny engages by silencing the opponent, turning them into a fairy. So in my opinion, she is definitely an S tier champion, not only in solo rank, also in competitive. She is really great. Second pick in for supports is going to be Alistair. He has great sustain, his ultimate makes him super tanky, his engages are nice, he can use flash, W, Q for example, or he jumps W onto one champion and then push that champion away while hitting your Q onto the target right next to the person you just pushed away. So overall, Alistair, one of the best tanks right now in the game. Next on the list is going to be Orianna. He has great roaming potential, high AoE damage. I think in the right hands he's S tier. I mean, on average he might be A tier because not many people are proficient on Orianna. But whenever I see someone is really good on Orianna, it's absolutely hard to deal with Orianna. And next, Orianna. She is probably the best mage right now in the mid lane. Her damage in the late game absolutely devastating. She has insane poke. Her ultimate utility is super strong and the cooldown of the ultimate is short. So overall, I think she is one of the most safe and consistent mages, and that's why I put her in the S tier. Lee Sin, one of the best early game junglers, strong invades, strong ganks, a playmaker. He can do so many combos to initiate a gank, start a team fight, or pick people off. Has a lot of utility, nice movement. His W is a free dash, not like on the PC version where he has to use a ward. So overall, I think he is super strong. Obviously, he fell off a little bit after the recent nerfs, but overall, a good Lee Sin is still going to carry in a solo rank match pretty hard, especially in lower tier rank games. Next is going to be Shivana. Shivana is one of my favorite champions. Objective control. When she's getting dragons, she's getting bonuses on her abilities, and then she just pops off. She is super tanky, has high damage, and is great at engaging team fights. So overall, a really consistent jungler in my opinion. Next jungler is going to be Olaf. He has true damage, he has an ultimate ability, which makes him not being able to get CC'd, which is going to be huge. His E does true damage. He has a lot of sustain from his W and also his Q. He can keep spamming it, especially with blue buff. So overall, he has strong early game pressure, is strong in the mid game team fights, and especially in synergy with Lulu, he is absolutely amazing. And now we are coming to Gragas. I think you guys already know that Gragas is still very much OP, even though he got nerfed. His damage is insane. He is one of the most consistent laners in the Baron lane. He's also good in the mid lane, but I think I rate him higher in the Baron lane. No one actually beats him in a 1v1. Great sustain, great poking, high burst damage, utility. His dash stuns, his ultimate can knock people back to you. So overall, he has the he just has the package kit. It has everything. So pretty good. Next one is going to be Canon. Can be played both in the mid lane and in the top lane. I prefer him in the top lane because he is just so strong in the lane against melee champions. His roaming potential is great. His AoE ultimate damage is absolutely crazy. He can carry team fights single-handedly. So overall, one of the best released champions recently. Super strong. Now next one is going to be debatable maybe. Akali. I rate her ST in the right hands. In the Baron lane. Not necessarily in the mid lane, in the Baron lane. She wins almost every melee matchup for free if you're good at her. She has high burst damage, her Shroud is amazing in team fights. So in the right hands, if you are proficient on Akali, she is S tier. If you're just an average Akali player, she might be considered A tier. But I think if you're really good on her, she is S tier. Moving on to the A tier. For the supports, it's going to be Braum. Really consistent tank. His E is amazing to block projectiles. MF ultimate, he can just use his E to block it completely. His ultimate does a huge knockup. Overall, he is pretty consistent and a nice tank. Janna might be debatable. Some of you guys might think, oh, maybe she's just a B tier. But I think she has great poke. Her disengage abilities is great against teamfight comps. Her shield is nice. And like I said, her poking in the lane is also really annoying. And I think giving free AD onto your ADC is pretty good. And she is played in peel comps and has great potential in my opinion, if you play her correctly. She roams also pretty quick and her poking is super annoying. So that's about it for Janna. Ahri, a pretty consistent mid laner. If you charm correctly, you just win the team fight. If you hit one good charm, you just win the team fight. Hitting a charm onto enemy ADC is just auto win. She has 3 dashes, decent sustain, good wave clear, good poke. So overall, a really solid mid laner. Yasuo, I put him in A tier because I don't see that many proficient Yasuo players. I think his skill ceiling goes into the S tier. On average, maybe you see him probably B tier. But there are a lot of good Yasuo OTPs where I would say, okay, I might as well put him in A tier. But I think he could be put in B tier, he could be put in S tier. I just put him in A tier. It always depends on the proficiency of the player. If you have 1000 games on Yasuo and you play him amazingly, he's probably S tier. If you are a bad Yasuo, probably just B tier. And if you're a decent, good Yasuo, I would put him A tier. He has a lot of playmaking potential. His ultimate is really nice, even though the cooldown, the damage is not high. And the cooldown is actually pretty low, so that's nice. Next one, we're moving on to the marksmans for the A tier list. First of all, Jinx, she is... Actually, I didn't put any marksman into S tier. But I don't think marksmen are just... Most marksmen are just all on the same level. It doesn't really matter. They're all pretty strong. But I wouldn't put one above everyone else. Maybe you could put Jinx on top. Maybe we could put Jinx S tier. But Jinx really just snowballing. It depends on Lulu, because everyone is abusing Lulu Jinx right now. But even though I wouldn't put any marksman above the others, like, they're all good on their own. Yeah, I just keep it like this. S tier means they are really, really god pick in their respective role, to be honest. Maybe Aurelion is not S, maybe he could be A tier, but I just put him S tier because I see so many amazing Aurelion players that just pop off, and especially in competitive, he is a super strong pick. But yeah, this is a solo rank list, but I would say solo queue in Grandmaster, Master, Challenger is pretty competitive. So the people know how to play the game more than for say bronze players. Maybe that's just a bad example, but it's closer to competitive. That's why I think Aurelion is better in high elo and might be worse in low elo. So this is definitely a tier list that is more orientated to high elo gameplay, and that's why I think those ADCs, there's no ADC that really stands out, and Jinx only stands out because of the synergy with Lulu. And if she's without Lulu, then I don't think she's going to be S tier. And that's just my opinion. Maybe your opinion is different. You can write it down in the comments. What you would change if you like my tier list, or if you agree with my tier list. It's all subjective. This is like, tier lists are always subjective, so there is no right and wrong. This is just my opinion. You can agree with it, you can disagree with it. It's all going to be fine. So, Jinx, pretty strong in synergy with Lulu. Overall consistent high damage. I mean, every ADC is just when they're getting fed and they have good positioning and they can carry team fights. Draven, super strong early game. If he's getting his passive procced by killing someone, getting a lot of gold, he's getting a huge snowball boost. So I think a good Draven, A tier. Misfortune, high burst damage, nice poke in the lane, ultimate huge in team fights. Overall A tier. Kai'Sa, Kai'Sa, good mobility with the ultimate. She has high burst damage with her Q, so A tier as well. Wukong, now we're moving on to the junglers in the A tier list. Wukong, super strong AoE ultimate, decent utility thanks to his clone. Ganking ability, not bad. Overall, A tier. Amumu, early game not that strong, can't contest Scuttle against the S tier champions, especially Olaf and Lee Sin. He's getting bullied, but his AoE ultimate is really amazing, high damage. But they nerfed him, so he isn't S tier anymore. Vi, a really consistent, solid pick that does have high damage. Her ultimate is great utility. Overall, I put her in A tier. Malphite is a really strong pick right now, especially against melee champions. He's also decent against the top picks Akali, Canon, and Gregors by going AP mixed build, Liandry's into tanky. One of the most popular builds on Malphite right now. Great utility in team fights, a tank who has a really good laning phase by poking people with the Q and hitting your ultimate onto 4 people, knocking them up, huge playmaking potential. And now moving on to the other side laners on the A tier list. Camille, not the strongest early game. If she's scaling, gets items, her split push is amazing. The ultimate trapping them is crazy. Her mobility with the E is also good, but I don't think she is S tier. I wish she was a S tier. Even if you are really, really good, I think Gregor's Canon just have way more value, and Akali straight up counters Camille. And compared to the other laners, Malphite, Darius, and Fiora, it's just about even, I would say. Darius stronger in the early game. Bullies Camille, for example. It always depends on the matchup, but overall, I would say she is just A tier. Doesn't provide the same value as the S tier champions. Next one is going to be Darius, one of the strongest laning bullies, but he doesn't excel in team fights like Gregor's Canon. He's also getting bullied by Akali, who is a hard counter against most melee champions. In team fights, he can be kited. Depends. If you fall behind, he's getting kited super hard. And a Darius who falls behind is no Darius. He's just a minion. So A tier is pretty good, considering that he's a lane bully. And if he snowballs, he is pretty strong. But if he's not snowballing, he is pretty weak, to be fair. Fiora, one of the strongest duelists, is a great split pusher, outscales almost every champion in a late game 1 versus 1. Actually, I think 1 versus 1 she's going to beat everyone in the late game, except maybe Akali. Nah, actually no. She's beating every champion late game on same gold. Her true damage is just too strong. She has to scale though. Her early game is still pretty good, but she needs those items to absolutely demolish the enemy side laner. Her teamfight is not the greatest. She is more suited as a split pusher, and that's why she is just A tier. Moving on to the B tier list. I think for those champions, I will try to keep it a little bit short. I think most of you guys are more interested in the S and A tier champions. And for a lot of those champions in the B tier list, I'm just speaking of my own experience. I don't play them too much. I can only base it on, how often I see them and how well they perform in high elo. Seraphine, I put her B. She has decent utility. Her poking is pretty nice. But if you buy QSS, she is still pretty squishy overall. And the Lulu, Alistair, Braum, they're just more consistent and stronger, to be honest. Nami, I think she has great playmaking potential with her bubble and the ultimate, but her playmaking potential and her laning phase just doesn't match up to the other supports. So overall, she's decent. B tier means she's decent. If you play them OTP, you can make them good. But I don't see Nami pretty. I never see Nami. I can't really judge it. I think B tier is pretty solid for her. She is good, but not amazing, and not God. Not God tier. Next one, Blitzcrank. Playmaking potential is there. His team fighting is not really good. I mean, if you hook a key target, it's really amazing, but most people are not getting hooked in the high elo, to be honest. And the hook, the hook range is smaller, like it's just really tiny. The hitbox, okay, now I have the word. The hitbox is just tiny compared to before. So I don't think it's that great anymore. Okay, next one is going to be Sona. Decent poke. Really squishy. Ultimate can be a playmaker. But I always have to compare it to the other champions, and she isn't that good compared to them. She's a solid pick, and that's why I put her in B tier. Next one is going to be Ziggs. I think a lot of people are sleeping on Ziggs. Ziggs has, if you play it good, his poke is amazing. His tower damage is absolutely nuts as well. Great ultimate. If you hit it in a Baron pit fight or dragon fight, it's going to be changed the team fight as well. And overall, I think his poking ability is really strong, but people don't know how to play him exactly. Zed is pretty good if he's snowballing, but everyone's just buying Zhonya's or QSS, so overall he's just going to fall off. His snowballing can be really devastating, but I think he's just B tier. Next one is going to be Evelyn, who was S tier before the nerf. I think you can play her in the mid lane anymore. where she was really strong. In the jungle, she has potential to be A tier if you play her really well. But I think most people know how to play against Evelyn right now. You just have to avoid getting killed in the early game by running into her charm. And yeah, people are just used on how to play against Evelyn right now. And if she doesn't snowball, she's just getting outscaled by most champions for free. And in team fights, she is honestly not too great now. Next one is going to be Annie. I think her ultimate has great potential, but her wave clear isn't the best. Her poking isn't the best. She is really squishy. Her range isn't the greatest. So overall, with Protobelt ultimate, you can make plays, but yeah, she's just B tier. A solid pick, but not too amazing. I mean, compare Canon to Annie. And Canon just ultimate flash E in GG, and Annie just has... She's going to get bursted before she can get her combo off, usually. Lux, super squishy, decent poke, ultimate is okay, but overall, compared to other mages like Orianna or Ari, she isn't that good. Easy to kill, no, she can't escape any ganks. She is really easy to kill. Fizz. Not sure if Fizz is going to be B or C tier. I feel like I never see Fizz. And I don't think he's that great because poke mages are much better right now in the meta. And his teamfight value isn't that great compared to poke mages. I mean, if you hit your ultimate, it's not bad, but people can avoid it. It's just, most of the times, it's just going to be single target. He's a single target mage assassin. And compared to all those AoE nukers, champions that have AoE damage are just way better in this meta right now, especially when it comes to dragon fights, baron fights, and so on. I think he is just solid but not that amazing. Next one. Twisted Fate. I think he has a lot of playmaking potential with his ultimate. I saw one Twisted Fate who really standed out to me. He was really amazing. Doper 2.0. Nah, I'm just kidding, but his damage is not the greatest. His poking is not the greatest. He is easy to kill. He is squishy. His ultimate has playmaking potential. He can snowball. But I think in teamfights he just doesn't... He is just not as good as Orianna, for example. So B tier is pretty solid. Jhin, after all those nerfs and the Guardian Angel nerf, I think he is just B tier now. He is a solid ADC, but nothing special. Next one, Asriel. Asriel got so many nerfs, I think he is just not as good as he was before. He still has utility, poking is nice, but his early game is pretty weak compared to other ADCs. Next one, Ashe. Ashe needs to scale. Her ultimate has great playmaking potential. Her late game is pretty strong. She is squishy and easy to kill though, since she doesn't have any mobility. Next one, Tristana. Late game an absolute beast. Early game absolute whack. That's about it. Hard carry if she's getting ahead. And she needs like 3 or 4 items before she's useful. Graves can be played in top lane, can be played in the jungle, mostly played in the jungle. To be honest, I can't really judge Graves because no one plays him except for Vex in the jungle. I think he's decent, but in teamfights he just isn't that great. If you compare it to Shivana or compare to Lee Sin ganks, like Lee Sin, amazing ganks, Shivana, way better teamfight, Olaf, way better teamfight, and that's how I base it on. I think he's solid. Maybe has potential to be A tier if you play it well, but I think B tier is where he is on average. Next one, Jarvan. Great ganks, great utility, doesn't have too much damage. He's just there for utility. I think his ganks are not bad, so overall I put him at B tier. Next one, Garen. Solid pick, great roaming, is hard to kill, is tanky, does have decent damage, and that's why I put him B tier. Then next one, Singed. Singed has really good playmaking potential when he has like 3 items. He has tons of damage, great split pusher, tanks super much, and he can make plays with a flash E by pulling people back. So overall, B tier. Okay, let's drink a little bit. Wait a bit. Okay, next one. C tier. Varus. He's just bad. He's just bad. Honestly, I have nothing to say about it. He's just bad. Same for Vayne. Trash early game. Late game, she can pop off, but overall not that good. Mundo. It really depends. I think he's just C tier. He can be played in the jungle and top lane. I think he just doesn't provide any value in team fights. If he gets gold, obviously he's going to be super tanky, but people can just buy anti-heal or use ignite on him. So overall, I think he's just C tier. Maybe he has potential to be B tier if you play it well. Same goes for Xin Zhao. Every jungler is just better than him. He used to be super strong on the Asian patch. Like a few months ago, he was like S tier, he was super strong, but he got nerfed. His base damage and stats are super weak compared to others, so I put him just C tier. No one plays him, so I can't really judge. Jax. Jax animations are kinda pepega. His late game can be super strong. In the right hands, if you're OTP, he could be B or A tier. I think his laning phase, compared to a lot of picks, is just weak. And his teamfight is trash. He can be bullied pretty easy. He doesn't have ward jumps like on the PC version. Yeah, it's sad. Jax just C tier. I think he has potential to be better if you're really good at him. But overall, he is not that consistent. It's more likely that you have bad games than you have good games. Maybe most of the times you go like 1-5, 3-4 or something compared to going 10-0. Next one, D. Soraka. Banana Girl is just bad. She's just squishy, doesn't provide anything in teamfights except for the healing. She has silence. It's okay, but nothing special. She's just weak, and in the laning phase really bad. Master Yi, it's a good pick in low elo, but in high elo he is just straight up garbage. Same goes for Tryndamere. I mean, if you're OTP Tryndamere, he has the potential to be maybe B strong as a B tier pick, but overall not that good in team fights. Not the greatest split pusher. And then Nasus, he's just AFK farm. He can be decent if he's snowballing, but overall he's going to get bullied in the lane. He's not going to get farm, and he's easy to kill. Split pusher, teamfight, not that much value. He's just D tier. And that's about it for the tier list. Hope you guys enjoyed it. It's all based on my personal experience in high elo. Obviously, some of you guys will have a different opinion. Maybe you're facing a lot of good Evelyn players and then you think she's S tier. Maybe you will face a really strong Master Yi and Bronx who's going 20-0. But that's low elo for you guys, and this is based on high elo. And obviously, I forgot to mention, I asked Vex and Random for their opinion and other high elo players, and I think overall this is a pretty solid tier list and covers most things. Some picks might be a little bit lower. For example, Aurelion, maybe it's just A+, maybe it's just S-. I just put him S tier now because I feel like he is underrated and is super strong. And this depends on a lot of picks. Could be a little bit higher, could be a little bit lower, and obviously it always depends on the proficiency on the champion. If you're 1k games on a C tier pick or on a B tier pick, it could still be a really solid pick or a really good pick if you play it well. So obviously tier lists are just about personal preference, and that's about it. So if you guys enjoyed this tier list, I hope you guys can leave a like if you enjoyed it, and maybe subscribe if you want to see more content. Write down in the comments for which champions you would like to see more guides or commentaries, and what type of content would you like to see in the future. That's about it. Hope you guys have an awesome day, and that's going to be it for today. Bye bye.